filters are a vital part of the stills photographer's equipment, especially the landscape photographer. The reason for that is that the sky is much brighter than the land. Neutral density graduated filters are therefore the most useful filters of all. Because the sky is lighter, and especially this is true when the sun is low in the sky, a time when landscape photographers are particularly happy to be out with their cameras, the graduated filter compensates or balances for this discrepancy in brightness. The camera can cope with a certain amount without a filter, but once those conditions become more exciting and more extreme, more dramatic, then filters become really, really helpful and allow the camera to see the scene much more as the eye does. I've used Lee filters for many, many years, and especially ND graduated filters. ND grads are available in different strengths and two different gradation types up until now, hard and soft gradations. I have personally had two other kinds of gradations custom made for me, very hard and also medium. And Lee are now making these two additional gradations available to the general public for the first time. So there are going to be 4 different types of gradation available, as well as different strengths. I'd now like to explain why these are useful. Let's start by looking at the very hard grad. There's a number of reasons why you might need to use such a hard filter. The first of these is subject matter. And a good example is doing seascapes. Quite often the sea itself is very dark and there can be a very bright sky. It's an odd combination, but it happens frequently. And in those situations, the hard grad may not be quite enough to have that effect on the sky when it's close to the horizon. Here, the very hard grad comes into its own. Secondly, long focal length lenses tend to render the gradation extremely soft because it's so out of focus. And a hard grad is sometimes not enough with a very long focal length lens. This could be 150, 200 or even longer. And so with such a lens, the very hard grad helps to hold on to the effect of that darkening tone more effectively than a hard grad. And so that is another example. Finally, there is the issue of sensor size. So micro 4/3 sensors, APS-C sensors, very popular cameras, some of them with quite big lenses that are suitable for the 100mm system. These sensors are small enough that they really, really need the effect of the filter in quite an abrupt way, and so they can also really benefit from the very hard grad. So here is the medium grad. This is a real favorite filter of mine. It's very useful with smaller sensor cameras, particularly where its subtlety is really important for many, many types of landscape photograph. But for me, it's the Goldilocks grad. It's neither too hard nor too soft, but so often it's just right. And in that respect, for many different scenes, this is the first one that I will pick out of the filter bag. In order to show the point of having filters of different gradation, I'd like to show you some examples and talk through some of the decision-making processes that are involved. This image here, made relatively recently, Tantallon, Lothian in Scotland. This is made with a very hard grad. Now it might be surprising because the position of the grad, if I just use my finger to point, that is more or less where the grad line would be. So above that point is the effect of the filter, below that the filter is clear. And that means that the castle itself is actually affected by the grad, but because the sun was so strong on the castle, it actually benefits from that dampening down effect of the filter. I think it was a 2-stop grad, that's a 0.6. You shouldn't be able to see the filter. It's a very important part of my ethos, at least, of graduated filters, is that if you make the correct decision, you use the right filter, then you don't see it. Here's an example of a hard grad. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-stop because this is quite a strong difference between the admittedly sunlit landscape and the bright sky, but very early in the morning, and typically when you're in the northern hemisphere and quite far north, Hadrian's Wall, north of England, the tones of the landscape are quite dark. So even though the sun is hitting the walls strongly, the sun itself is relatively pale at that point. The sky's a lot brighter. And the hard grad here just turned out to be absolutely perfect in terms of the gradation or the transition. Often you find that with distance, the scattering of the light helps to make the process more forgiving in a way. So you get an almost seamless effect from the filter. But the most important thing from a technical point of view is that the highlights are retained. And with that, you can get a beautiful print. Oh, Yosemite Valley, this picture was shot in May, right at the height of the Californian drought, but the sky was stormy and very lucky really to see the valley in these remarkable conditions. The sky was dark, but the valley was even darker, so I still needed a filter to balance the light between the sky and the foreground. And given the nature of the composition, I needed something a little bit subtler. A medium grad turned out to be just right for this picture, shot with a medium format camera, a Cambo camera and a phase 1 back. So a slightly longer lens than one might otherwise imagine, fairly standard focal length, I think probably 58-60. But at any rate, it proved that the medium gradation grad was perfect for this composition. So here's an image from Antelope Canyon, which is near Page in Arizona. When this picture was made quite a few years ago, I was shooting film, transparency film, not at all forgiving. And it's very important to be able to retain detail in the shadows and in the highlights without burnout or clipping of the shadows. I used here a soft 3-stop grad in a very unorthodox way, coming in from the left-hand side. So the full strength of the grad would just be on that edge, and then the leading edge of the filter would be about here. So I'm covering up the central half really of the image with the gradation zone. These bright highlights have held just really nicely, and there's lovely shadow detail in here. So combination of that particular lighting, in spite of the fact that you might feel there's no obvious conventional horizon line, which there isn't, but it just shows how versatile these filters are in problem solving with an image like this one. The very hard and medium ND grads extend and complement the existing leefilters range. We now have even more fine control and subtle expression than before, enhancing our creative scope and fieldcraft in the landscape.